right. Well, good afternoon. For those who don't know me, I'm Allison Boder, President and CEO at AFI. And thank you for joining us today for the kickoff of our e-commerce webinar series. This webinar series will serve as a resource guide for helping frozen food manufacturers, suppliers, or brands determine feasibility of e-commerce. And it's going to explore the main barriers to e-commerce that have been identified by AFI's e-commerce working group. And those barriers are how to access pick and pack capabilities, the high price point to ship frozen foods, creating a consumer interface, especially for a manufacturing company where that's not their primary objective, and maintaining food safety and quality during distribution. This is a evergreen priority for AFI. I want to first thank and recognize our webinar series sponsor, Lineage Logistics, for their support of this special programming and for participating today as a speaker. Before we get kicked off, I want to take a couple minutes to share a little bit about AFI, since we have some non-members joining us today. So AFI is the trade association representing the frozen food industry. And this is truly an amazing time to be part of the frozen food industry with the pathway to growth that is very bright, considering our main consumer is the busy millennial balancing work, family, and meal preparation. At AFI, we support this pathway to growth through three strategic priority areas. One, we advocate for frozen foods and government programs. And this year, our focus is mitigating risks to pathogens in frozen foods. And that's an important part of e-commerce too, as you'll talk about today. In the Farm Bill this year, we are also seeking to increase access to frozen foods by our neighbors and friends that need help feeding their families. We also elevate the role of frozen foods in the broader food conversation about evolving food systems. And it's imperative that policymakers understand that frozen foods are a solution to problems we face today in this country. These include hunger, diet-related diseases, insufficient produce consumption, and climate change. And for each of these problems, frozen foods offers a solution because of their nutrition, affordability, convenience, and reduced consumer food waste. And finally, AFI promotes innovation through sustainability, market insights, and e-commerce. E-commerce because we know it's such an important and growing marketplace. And that's a good segue to our session today, and for me to introduce our moderator, Susie Montford, who's CEO of Food Sport International. Food Sport International is a consultancy founded to build a link between food retailing and manufacturing, and specializes in strategic operations, change management, format and concept design, and product development for the supermarket and restaurant industries. Susie helped found Food Sport International and has held several leadership positions in the food retail sector, including as CEO of Andronico's Community Markets, CEO of Quality Food Center, and Group Vice President of Kroger's e-commerce and new markets team. So Susie, thank you so much for being here today and being part of our e-commerce work at AFI. I will hand things off to you to introduce our speakers and start the discussion.
Thanks, Allison. I appreciate the warm welcome. And oh my gosh, we brought this slide up to make sure that you all have a few moments just to feast your eyes on sort of what I call the size of the prize. I mean, if you stop and think about where we are right now in 2023, holy cow, it's already March, and reflect, we have a very interesting time, paradoxical, I think, in how consumers in the US are consuming food. Coming out of the pandemic, never before have we had customers seeking out culinary adventures and culinary delights. We're living in a time of the most sophisticated culinary customers ever in the United States. So we've got folks seeking culinary, but folks also looking for health and nutrition and health and wellness through their food. And at the same time, we've got consumers who are really demanding that we do better ecologically and have a sustainable from farm to shelf to table. Take a look at the size of the prize here with online sales. This is fresh data our friends at Rick Meets Click put out just 2 days ago. You can see the lift in e-commerce sales over a year ago from 8.7 billion to 8.8. Notice the things that have changed. Pickup has increased and ship to home has increased. So the size of the prize is immense. The time has never been better for frozen food manufacturers and brands to step in and play a vital role. So as we get into the webinar, some housekeeping. If we'd love your feedback and questions, we're going to leave time at the end for some questions. So please use the Q&A function on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. Send us any jokes or questions. No, maybe not the jokes. So anything you want to say, comments, please share, and we'll get to it. So before I go any further, I'm going to introduce you to our two panelists, two fabulous people. I couldn't think of better people to join us. Jean Walker. Jean is a business development manager for Lineage, who is a longtime AFI associate member. We're thrilled to have Jean here. She spans the range from a small mom and pop manufacturer, and now she's an expert in D2C, direct to consumer e-commerce. Later, if you want to ask her questions about the difference between a jam and a marmalade, she can help you. Also, Ryan Nungesser. Ryan is the VP of operations for Cometeer Coffee. He's a customer of Lineage. He can walk us through the whole path from idea to how you curate and how you actually develop, not to mention the fact that he's got some kind of super secretive past with Tesla and Boston Scientific. So fabulous guest for us to talk to. All right, so framing this out, as Allison said, this is step one in a three-part series, 5 challenges to direct to consumer. As we get into that, we're going to draw the lens open wide to start. As you think about looking for a partner to help grow and scale your business, this might go sort of without saying, but really make sure you're finding a partner who's got experience in frozen foods. Because as you all know, maintaining quality, food safety, speed to market, it's very critical that you've got the right experts. Think about your geography and not just where your business operates today. You might be the favorite local brand in your town or region, but what are your aspirations down the track? Think at least 2 to 3 years out. If you've got national aspirations, make sure you work with a reputable, knowledgeable partner who can do that. Scale and responsiveness. You're going to want to select a partner that can scale your business for you, that can do forward buys, that can manage your inventory with you, so that if you get a shout out, every Wednesday is food day in the New York Times, for instance, if you get a shout out in the New York Times, you're going to have a massive spike in sales. So you've got to have a supply chain partner who can respond. Lastly, you're going to look for a partner that's got state-of-the-art technology and who can also integrate in both your front end and your background and your back end. So based on that, that's why we're so thrilled to have Lineage and have Ryan join us for this conversation. All right, so we started high level. Now we're going to get into the meat of the conversation. Just keep in mind as we work through the conversation today, at AFI, we recognize there are many different e-commerce channels. And I hope as a retailer around the world and here in the US, I hope you're really leaning first and foremost into your retailer relationships, your grocery stores, whether it's Kroger or otherwise. Make sure that you're working for incremental profitable sales in your retail. Online marketplace, obviously Instacart, DoorDash, Amazon Fresh, and everybody else. That is an existing marketplace. Folks that have invested heavily to create that marketplace. So you can find your customer there. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. Many brands also work with their own self-fulfillment, and they use Amazon technology and supply chain or Costco or Walmart. But as you know, today we're here to talk about direct to consumer. So why D2C? Well, D2C, direct to consumer, fits any size of brand or manufacturer. It is something that you can curate, that you can tailor to your business where it is today. So direct to consumer immediately provides incremental profitable sales. It's a brand new revenue channel. Flash back to that slide a second ago. $8 billion in direct to consumer. You deserve to have a slice of that. Direct to consumer offers unlimited shelf life if you've got the right partner, the right 3PL who can help you with inventory management. And actually, that might be a great segue. Jean, if I could quickly come to you, just to make sure that we've grounded everyone's thinking here. Do you mind just taking a moment and giving a quick explanation on how Lineage works with manufacturers?
Yeah, sure. So the way Lineage works with our customers is we have 8 warehouses across the country. So we want to make sure the products are as close to the consumer as possible. So we identify which warehouses would be appropriate for the customer, and then the brands send us the products to the warehouse and we store them. We have 4 temperatures. There's obviously frozen. We also have refrigerated areas. We have a chocolate room or areas that address melting issues, and we have ambient temperatures. So we store the products on consignment for the customer. And then when we integrate our systems, the orders come in and we ship them. So we put together the box and then we ship it out the door.
Love
So
it.
that's how
Love
we
it.
work with our customers.
Great. And you'll ship UPS or some other method direct into the consumer's home. Okay. And I know that we're going to touch on how some of that pack out happens later, but thanks for that good overview. I thought that was really critical. So new revenue, unlimited shelf life, engagement with customers. It's a way that you can get into somebody's home in a couple of days and completely make their holiday or make their entertainment and really create some raving fans. Also, D2C, you get immediate feedback from your customers. What's working, what they'd like to have, what variety they're looking for. And last but not least, it's a very nimble, very highly responsive way for you to market and promote your business. So that's a little bit about the why D2C. All right, so let's get started. Let's saddle up. We're going to cover 5 key elements today on what we're going to handle, on the disruptions for e-com. Number 1, how to handle disruptions, which never happen, and changes in the business and scaling. Jean, may I go pivot back to you, please? Talk to us. We're not saying you're disruptive, but talk to us about some of these disruptions that can happen and maybe how Lineage can speak to that. And then we're going to flip it over to Ryan for some of his thoughts.
Yeah, you must know better than I how disruptions can affect the business. The things that can happen, such as weather, data outages, supply chain issues, labor disruptions. So the way we think about the solution at Lineage is to really work hand in hand with our customers. We work immediately to provide communication. We want to make sure we control the situation as best we can. If it's a weather-related event, we stop shipping until it's safe to put those packages back out into the network. So communication is key to solving the disruption problem.
Yep, 100%. And Ryan, as you think about disruptions and maybe also, sometimes there are changes in the business, what comes to mind? What kind of real life examples can you share?
Yeah, probably too many to get into this conversation, but I think disruptions happened all the time in operations. Everyone that's part of those, and again, for a small business like ours, the flexibility to deal with those is really critical. As I think about our products and the fact that we launched in D2C, having a partner like Lineage to help us through those to minimize the disruption to our customer. The perfect example throughout the pandemic, dry ice, as an example, has been a significant challenge for us. We're a small company. We're at the bottom of many people's list of customers that they need to take care of as they're trying to prioritize the amount of dry ice that they could ship out. And Lineage was super helpful because we were able to leverage their scale, to get up the list, use them to make sure that we were able to minimize disruptions to our customers, because they were able to help us through that in that particular instance, because they had the size and the scale to be able to help a small business like ours. On the change perspective, we change all the time. And I think part of being a startup in the food and beverage space is really learning about your product through customer trial. Direct to consumer was an amazing way to get almost immediate feedback. And then frankly, almost every week, month, we make small tweaks based on the feedback that we're getting. And I think direct to consumer is a great way for smaller companies that are just really trying to understand their product fit in the market to get that immediate feedback and move quickly, which is really, really important in a very competitive space.
I appreciate that. And before we move off of this onto the next, Commentier Coffee, which you've talked about, anything that you can think of that's really relevant to this with regard to maybe a holiday promotion you did just over last Christmas, anything that comes to mind with regard to that?
Yeah, we're a great product for gifts. In fact, we just this year offered a gifting package. We realized you get to the end of the year, people are looking for that last minute gift. And, we were able to quickly provide that offering to our customers. Obviously, with the most important part, can we get it to them there in time for the holidays. And again, kind of coming back to scale and being able to leverage, Lineage as an example is our strategic partner on that final mile logistics, have warehouses right near our customers. We were able to integrate into their systems to offer this new gifting feature. And it was a great example of where that flexibility and their scale allowed us to take advantage of the holiday season with a great frozen coffee product that was a real hit for us.
I love it. Thanks. I mean, the real life examples really help bring this to life. So as we move on to the second of our 5 elements, how to right size the orders, basically, how do we maximize profit for that? Maybe Ryan, looking to you first here, whether it's the holiday time or any time. I mean, there's an old adage in the restaurant business, which was my first career out of college, that you don't design the dining room for the holiday day. Meaning you got to make it a dining room size that you can be profitable every day. So how do we think about shipping directly, knowing that it's a cost? So Ryan, if you want to take a stab at that first, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, this is critical. That final mile step for a direct to consumer business is really one of the most costly aspects of our business. So we want to obviously think about maximizing every order. Average order value is an important metric for us from a business efficiency perspective. And it's, for us, a little bit of an art, again, as a new startup. Coffee is a very ritualistic type of commodity. People drink it every day. So our initial thought was like, let's start with quantities that kind of match people's habits, how they would go to the store if they were buying this for themselves, usually like week-long, month-long type subscriptions, box sizes. Our base box typically serves people for about a month, which felt like the right initial place to go. And then really in partnership with Lineage and trying to optimize, again, the costs of that last mile logistics, we worked through, again, adding features where there was a little extra space in the box. Can we add features like, hey, add this unique offering that we just had so that people could get their base kind of ritualistic purchase size, and then be able to add on special releases, those gift boxes, add a little extra to their order if they have some extra space in their freezer. And again, going back to the flexibility of having a partner like Lineage to do that, we were able to execute.
I love it. And Jean, touching on some of the sustainable packaging, I guess we can look at that just again for a moment. I know that this is a big emphasis for Lineage, but if you want to chat about that, and then also any other thoughts about really how to maximize not just the AOV, average order value, but the sales and the profitability, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, obviously it is an expensive endeavor to ship your product with the appropriate amount of coolant to make sure that stays frozen across the time. We have to factor in the time in transit, but also the time that it sits on the porch and the time that it takes to pack the product. So no matter how big a box is with as many products as you put in it, you are going to sink some cost into that. So you might as well pack that box as filled with product as possible, and the higher value products that are unique do better in our network. So, as Ryan mentioned, we do come up with promotions and ideas. Variety packs work really well. So you have your set, high sellers, but you also come up with some, variety that you can throw in there as an additional, or that the client can sample many of the different flavors or different products that you offer. That's a really good way to pack that box full, kind of so it looks like a club size order. You want it to be, really in a larger size package. You mentioned sustainability, and we can talk a little bit about that now. We're really looking to minimize as much information, as much product that goes into the box as possible. We can talk later about that too.
Yeah, and I love, Ryan, we're showing here, I think this is one of your variety packs, which is gorgeous and looks terrific. So as you think about that, and then also maybe just the customer interface on simplifying orders and making it easier for them, what are some other keys that you would coach our manufacturers and brands on?
Yeah, I think we have a principle of just trying to keep it simple. You don't want to overwhelm the customers with choices. We've all had that analysis paralysis sitting in front of our computer screens trying to pick the options. And so we leaned in a little bit. We knew our customers wanted variety, so different roasters. We knew that they wanted maybe different roast types. And so we tried to kind of balance a little bit of different types of coffees, different roasts, and kind of give them preset variety packs that responded to, again, the feedback that we were getting directly from them for a little bit more of this, a little bit less than this. But at the end of the day, you don't want to overwhelm your customers with too many choices. So it's a balance.
I think that's actually really smart as we move to the third, because how do we create a consistently exceptional experience? What you're talking about, Ryan, with regard to not overwhelming your customer, sometimes you see that online because the digital store, it's endless, right? I mean, you can have a million products as opposed to the brick and mortar store where we are very planful with our planograms. But the converse of that is, yeah, you can overwhelm and just lose people. I think this is a great example, speaking to our third element. How do we create consistently exceptional brands? Ryan, talk to us a bit about the merchant and marketing thinking behind this type of pack.
Yeah, so the picture on the screen is actually one of our customers proudly displaying their latest Lineage Packs box on Twitter. And, you know, for us, it started as a, you know, we consider ourselves a premium brand. So we want people to have that aha experience. So beyond just providing the different varieties of roasters and roast types, you know, there was definitely an element of, you know, what gives people the wow factor when they open that commentier box. And you can see, we thought a lot about color, visuals, and making people feel like, you know, they're getting a new exciting Christmas gift every time a commentier box arrives. So it's interesting. It's a limited space and you have different options, but trying to take advantage of that space and thinking about opening a box like a billboard, you know, what gets people excited when they look up and look around out of their car? It's color, it's visuals. So that was a big part of our thought process in terms of the merchandising and marketing. And then the last piece for us is education. And you can see it with the card in the back, telling people a little bit about the coffee that they're receiving, how to use it, the fact that it's recyclable, a little bit about our technology to get them excited and sharing their experience with other potential customers. We wanted to, you know, wrap that all into that, you know, that first experience, particularly that they get when they order for the first time.
Yeah, I love it. It looks fantastic. I'm really ready for a great cup of coffee, or if somebody wants to bring me a latte, that'd be great. So Jean, as you think about this, and I would like to just give you an extra moment also, because I think here, this really this puts me in the frame of mind of the customer receiving this. So speak to some of the packaging and branding, but then equally, will you just give us again that overarching the life cycle of how this product got from manufacturer through supply chain to the customer's door? I want to make sure we're touching on that to make sure that our listeners are really piecing this together. But first, speaking to the packaging and the branding, et cetera, what are your thoughts on how we make this memorable?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan said it best. And if you see that picture, it's just wow. You know, you've got your different colors, you've got a really self-explanatory card. So an insert will do a lot. Those inner boxes are also very practical as they keep the product frozen. And it really controls temperature when you eliminate air in a box, and you also have sort of an inner box, but it's also tidy as you have dry ice. Your products aren't flopping around in the box. So it's giving a lot of sort of a high-end feel. When the customer opens the box, it's as beautiful as when it was packaged. So inner boxes or, you know, inserts or bags, things that sort of keep your product sort of in a very fancy way are one way of providing that high-end luxury experience of opening your box and bring the user back and expanding on the brand. But not too much, but just enough to keep everything cold and perfectly tidy in the box.
Yeah, and it looks like some of the materials are recyclable. I think that's a regional thing. So, you know, customers will need to see what their local jurisdictions offer.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like in this particular instance, a customer ordered this variety pack. So would you just walk us backward from the Lineage has Cometier's inventory in their storage. Can you just give us the pieces between that bit and how the customer actually got that on their front porch?
Yeah, sure. So Cometier sends their products into our warehouse, so we receive them and store them in our warehouse. Cometeer goes ahead and sells the product. They do the marketing, they do all of the transactions to create that user demand. And those orders come into Cometeer's order management system. That is integrated in with the Lineage order management system. So as their orders arrive, we are receiving their orders for them. And then those orders are sorted by the appropriate warehouse and then queued up to be shipped out. We make sure that we ship on days when it's appropriate, because you do not want to send a package that won't be able to be received on the weekend. So we're mindful of the limitations with a perishable shipment. We then take their box and then an eco-friendly liner, we pack it full of their product, and then we top it with the dry ice. And then we close the box and we ship it out the door to the customer via FedEx or UPS. So that's how the process works. When the order is completed, we complete the order in our inventory. Cometeer's inventory is updated, and then the client is sent a branded message saying, hey, we've just shipped your product. Here's the tracking number. And then the second notification is, hey, it's arrived on your door. Now you need to go take that and put it back in your freezer so it doesn't melt on the front porch.
I love it. I love it. And I didn't want to get you out of your flow, but I zipped over to, because this is a great segue to our next point, which is how do we wow customers basically? How do we wow them? And how do we keep them healthy? Meaning, how do we keep our products food safe? And that's what you were starting to talk about, is this temperature control. And that's absolutely key. So maintaining temperature control throughout the transport is what you're touching on. Ryan, jump in here and add any other details that you think are helpful for this part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the monitoring, but that's really the last control step. I think there is a lot of engineering work that goes on in the background that ensures that the configuration of the package is tested. We do a lot of environmental testing, chamber testing under various conditions to try to make sure that we have the right insulation, the right amount of dry ice, et cetera. And so a lot of the work on the temperature control is really done in labs and in computer kind of modeling. And so again, Jeannie can obviously speak to how they monitor it, but I think that's an important part of the temperature control process for everyone to understand, is you got to do your homework to make sure that the configuration that you're shipping in is giving it the best possible chance outside of just the monitoring, which is obviously the reactive step to get to the customer as intended.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because the quality was there going into the product. The quality exists, but if we don't maintain that temperature throughout the supply chain to the customer's door, to your point, they're going to get a suboptimal or sometimes an unsafe food. Jean, before we close out of this topic, though, talk to us also about traceability, because I know that's a key that we must focus on.
Yeah, a big part of being mindful for safety is to looking at all the key factors, and traceability is certainly an important one. So monitoring all of the expiration dates of a product, the lots of a product, when the product has been received, giving it enough time. So even when it's going to expire, we're not going to ship a product out that may expire, you know, in transit or whatnot. So we have to build in the traceability of the product's health before its expiration. And then once it's been sent, being able to trace it back in case there was ever a problem with that lot downstream, we would be able to track that and monitor it for customers. So yeah, traceability is a really big part of it.
Traceability is key, which again is going back to, as we as AFI think about how the best advice and coaching we can give to folks looking for a partner, make sure they've got state-of-the-art technology and the ability to do traceability. And just before we move off of this food safety, because Allison, I know this is a real key part of the AFI's mission, and your own passion is around food safety. So if I could just come to you, I know you shared around an article for all of us to read just this morning that was touching on some food safety elements. So before we move off this topic, anything you'd like to share about food safety or traceability keys that you want our members to look for?
Yeah, thanks, Susie. One thing I want to mention is that we at AFI have some guidance that we have developed last year for e-commerce manufacturers or manufacturers who are going to get into the e-commerce space, things to think about to ensure the safety of your product as it goes through the whole shipping process from your door to the consumer's door, because this isn't a different environment now. So that's available at AFI. So if anyone is interested in that, please let me know. But this is critical. You know, if we don't deliver a safe product to the consumer's house, then we don't have a second product to sell. So it's that critical. You got to get it right the first time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a terrific part of AFI's mission to keep us all up to date and current and well coached. So we've covered how to handle disruptions. We've talked about how to right size the order for maximum profit, how to really get an ROI on that, how to create exceptional brand experiences, how to keep customers healthy. Now let's move to our fifth, which is really this whole conversation around sustainability. And again, it's sort of, as I reflect, I find, I don't think I've ever been more proud to be in the food business in our industry, especially during pandemic, because as a grocer, I had a way to jump in and help and be part of helping folks navigate their lives. And so we're living in this paradox right now when we've got people consuming food in a myriad of ways through many, many different channels. We've got, again, the most culinarily sophisticated group of American consumers that we've ever had, because it's not uncommon now to see small children eating sushi. Oh my gosh. I think we were fed Swanson's frozen turkey dinners when I was half of these kids' age, which might date me. But at any rate, and actually, you know what? I loved it. I love the Swanson turkey dinner because the cherry cobbler on the corner would always get a little crustier than the mashed potatoes on the inside. And I could never figure out how they did that. Anyway, okay. I'm definitely dating myself. But as we think about frozen food, it's never been sexier. It's fresh food that is hyper fresh, that we can distribute locally, regionally, nationally. We can respond to food deserts with freshly frozen produce that folks can use. And it's our favorite culinary brands. One of my best friends who lives in San Antonio, Texas, is from Chicago, and she orders her favorite deep dish pizza frozen and shipped to her at least once a year and has a big pizza party. So why am I talking about all that? Well, we have culinary demands, we have health demands, we have nutrition demands, but we also have, thank goodness, I think the most ecologically savvy consumers than we've ever had before. And sustainability is important. It's important not just for the commercial remit, but it's important for all of us. So as we think about sustainability, Jean, I think I'll start with you. You touched a little bit earlier on some of the eco-friendly materials. I'm sure there's no perfect solution yet, but chat to us for a moment and cover some of these topics on sustainability.
Yeah, the way I look at sustainability, it's a multi-pronged approach. So there's the materials, there's what's in the packaging, and then there's the impact that these packages have on our in our environment. So with the materials, the best we can do is, I don't know about you, but when I get a styrofoam box in the mail, I just don't even know what to do with it. I hate to throw it in the landfill. And so I try to come up with other uses. I've gone down to the local shipping store and tried to donate them for them to use. I've put them up on the free cycle in my neighborhood to get other people to use my coolers. And so it makes me feel uncomfortable getting those in the mail. So we have really identified and standardized on recycled content coolers for our boxes, because that's where the marketplace is for that demand. So we have three kinds. One's made out of recycled denim and recycled blue jeans. The other's made out of recycled content. The one that you see in the commentator pictures is curbside recyclable, goes right into the recycle bin. And then we also have one that's made out of cornstarch that just dissipates in the sink. So we look at ways of using the right materials that are friendlier to the environment when we're packing a box. And they're all very insulated too. They work great. And then we don't want to put too many extra inserts and pieces of packaging in that box, just enough to keep it cold, to have that beautiful user experience. But let's not put 10 different, throwaway flyers that no one's going to read. Let's minimize the impact in the box. And lastly, it's where the warehouses are. The closer you are to the consumer, the less drive time, the less dry ice that goes in the box, and the package just goes quickly to the consumer. And So you're saving an impact, and of course, working on a footprint of, temperature and environmentally friendly warehouses, which Lineage has a whole direction towards sustainability and environmentally friendly warehouses. So it's all part of the package.
No, that's good to know. And I chuckle a little bit about recycling. I'm telling a story out of school here, but a good friend of mine came home the other day, and her husband had just come back from a jog, and he had not been jogging in maybe ever, but for a while. She came in the house, and he was splayed out on the kitchen floor, and he had put all of their extra dry ice shipping container packets that he'd kept in the freezer all on top of him, cooling him down and trying to soothe his muscles. So I should have asked her to take a photo, because that's one way of recycling, but I don't think that's a very broad stream one. Ryan, as Cometeer Coffee thinks about sustainability, what are you hearing from your customers? What do you guys as a brand really focus on? And how can just give us some wisdom with regard to how we wrap our heads around being both sustainable, and yet we know we're shipping packages across the country?
Yeah, our customers have spoken loudly and clearly on this topic. It's one of the most important things that they love about our brand. And we were very thoughtful about cultivating that as we think about it. You saw it in that little card that we put in our box, and making sure that our customers are aware that our shipping materials are curbside recyclable. One of the big challenges in that very, convenient coffee space, with our competitors, is the challenges they have with the grounds and the coffee after you're finished with it, can't go directly to landfill. Our product is designed such that it gets washed away with water. You can throw our aluminum capsule directly into the recycling bin when you're finished. And again, that is something that we're very proud of. It's very much a core part of our brand image. And I think the only other part that we haven't talked about is there is a cost associated with those. Recyclable, sustainable materials are still obviously a little bit more expensive than non-sustainable materials, but I think that's where you're starting to see customers willing to pay a little bit more for that being part of the brand and the products that they're drinking. It's important to them, and so there is a balance you have to weigh there between the cost of the product and kind of the impact that has to the customers. But as more people say, what we like the most about your product is the fact that you have barista quality coffee at Keurig level convenience, and I can toss everything into my recycle bin without even thinking about it when you're finished. And that has continued to push us towards a path that when we think about product design changes, et cetera, we always ask ourselves, does this change our image and how our customers would see our commitment to sustainability?
Now, those are some brilliant points. And to your point, I mean, the customers, I also see a shift, I think, in folks, not just, it's one thing to have an expectation as a customer. I want this to be green. Yeah, but we all need to kind of do our part, right? I remember when I was as president of QFC Grocery, which is a Kroger chain, I led out in the state of Washington, for instance. I was the first company to eliminate single-use plastic bags in the state of Washington. I was the first president inside Kroger to do that. Kroger was 100% supportive and championed all that, but it took a lot of learning and frankly, some investment, because it was expensive, both for us, for the retailer, it was expensive for Kroger. And then also we needed the customer to share a little bit in that cost. So it was a lot of that marketing journey and sort of giving a message. And we started seeing some extremely positive feedback. And obviously that was a few years ago. Now I think customers are really looking to us, not just waiting for us to drag them to this party. I think they're looking to brands and to supply chain to help them on this journey. So really, really key points. Thank you all for sharing. We've done really well, you guys. You all behaved quite well. We've worked through all 5 of the elements, and kind of brings us to our Q&A, question and answer discussion. And it looks like we've got enough time. Let me open up the Q&A box and see. First question. Will Ryan ship Susie some free coffee for the next month? Ryan, that was the very first question. No, okay.
Oh, it's funny. I don't see that one on the Q&A.
Just kidding. and Allison, I know you're going to help me with this.
Yeah, I
And you
think
don't even know some of these folks if they are AFI members. And
just-
so sorry, Allison, do you want to?
Yeah, so I
handle
think
the first one?
a couple things here on a couple questions around the monitoring of temperature, which is not surprising given that that's so critical to food safety, and that's where frozen food companies' heads are. They got to have that first, and then everything else comes next. So maybe you guys could talk a little bit more, and Jean, that maybe to you about a little bit more detail about how you measure temperature throughout the chain, and then along with that, you know, validating that gets hand in hand with validating on that product basis. How do you ensure that that happens and over time to make sure that there are no abuses in that distribution?
Well, because we maintain a temperature in our warehouse, we have a threshold that products cannot be exposed to the temperatures beyond the threshold that is allotted to them. So there's very large swaths of the warehouse that are always frozen. They're always in that temperature area. And so, you know, we ensure that those products they arrive frozen, they're put in the freezer and they remain frozen. Of course, something that might happen in transit, we're visually inspecting the materials before they go into the freezer. So things that are before they hit the Lineage dock, make sure that what we put in has been frozen, and that there have been no mishaps. Once it's in our freezer, you know, we keep careful track of all of that, make sure that it's ensuring that the product remains in the temperature control that needs to be done. When we're packing the boxes, it really depends on the nature of the product. Some of our customers are okay with it going into a refrigerated warehouse for packing. Some need it to be packed in the freezers, and we accommodate both types of packaging, and to ensure that the product never really goes below the freezing point during the entire time it's in our warehouse. You know, Ryan touched on a really important part about the thermal testing and the engineering that goes into the pack out. So that's important. It's really how we ensure that when it leaves our dock and goes to UPS or FedEx, that it stays cold and frozen until it reaches the customer's door. So we do an enormous amount of package engineering. We take into account both summer and winter for the temperatures that are going to be hitting that box when it's outside of our warehouse, ensuring that we make sure that over time we have multiple testings, multiple shipments with sign off from our customers. And then we also keep it in sort of a thermal testing zone where we have it in, you know, a 70-degree range or a 90-degree range, and test the package. How long does it take for that product to melt in that temperature? And once we arrive at, okay, this is the duration of time that this package with these products that are typically sent out, you know, in the thousands per day, arrive frozen solid, that's where we say sign off is complete, and then that package is completely sent out. And that's how we're ensuring that they remain frozen.
Are there thanks, Jean, I think that's really helpful. Are there any stop gaps or any way that if abuse has occurred, how do you become aware of that? And our manufacturers too, because that's really important for them to be thinking about all the time.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure your definition of abuse, unless you mean when it it's taken out of the freezer and not
If something has happened along the way, say there is a disruption that we talked about earlier, a major storm, and then it gets, even though you designed it for a 48-hour shipping, it's now all of a sudden taken twice.
Yeah. Well, and those packages end up, we have to notify both our customer and their customer to the fact that those packages have exceeded their tolerance zone. So we typically, that's where the tracking comes into place. We know we shipped it. We know that there was a disruption en route, and we know that that disruption is going to render that package useless. We have to go back and manage that as a claim, and then we go forward and handle that in, you know, the appropriate measures that we take to do that. And it really comes down to the communication that we have with our customers, and also the lot tracking and knowledge of where those packages are and how they're being sent.
it sounds like too, that takes, it requires a very good partnership with whoever you are working with to actually deliver that product from your warehouse to the consumer, right? If that's UPS or FedEx. And I'm curious, do you use any other services beyond the UPS, the shipping, like a DoorDash or any of the, direct to consumer from cars, or Uber ship?
Yeah, not in our model. I believe that other direct-to-consumer environments work in different ways than we do, but our model is purely to work with the major carriers. There are markets that are underserved by those carriers, and then that's when we work with regional carriers and make sure that, the products are shipped out. But we really take the reliability of that shipment seriously, and we need to show a very strong track record of success with our carriers when we engage with them. And also we're balancing the cost of it. So we need to standardize on the cost to pass that savings along to our customers. So we tend to stick with the UPS or the FedExes of the world unless those markets are not served by them well. And then we go to other carriers. So no, we don't use
Thank you. That makes sense.
the DoorDashes.
Allison, I see this other question from one of the attendees on, because you had me at chocolate storage earlier, Jean, but what are there minimums? We have a question about, are there minimums for chocolate storage?
Yeah, we do have minimums in our warehouse. Right now, our warehouses are severely impacted. We've got a lot of demand, which is an amazing problem to have, but it does challenge us to make sure that we find space for everybody. And also we find that we're more efficient when we're fulfilling larger quantities of orders, and when our team who's working with the products has a lot of experience, and experience really translates to a higher volume of packaging. So 20 shipments a month is going to be too few. The minimums are not defined. They're not hard and fast. But our chocolate vendors typically are shipping in, maybe the 500 to 1,000 shipments per month ratio. But again, it's not set in stone. But we do look for higher volume customers, especially in chocolate.
Yeah. Ryan, maybe along this topic of shipments, is it, as long as it's not sensitive information, but how often, how many months inventory, or do you have any guide on the inventory management piece of this? How often you're shipping to Lineage, and what type of inventory levels that you think are optimal to store?
Yeah, I think every company is going to find their own kind of number there. I mean, there's pretty simple supply chain rough math around lead times and order quantities, et cetera, and how much inventory we keep in the system. We usually work generally around a 6-week inventory level cycle with Lineage. That works for us just in our replenishment and our ability to respond based on our upstream supply chain, coffee vendors, capsule suppliers, paperboard materials. And so, it's a risk reward. It's a risk reward game. I think we definitely, as a startup, lean towards wanting to make sure we have at all times what our customers need. As we become more cost conscious, working capital obviously is something that's very important for many businesses. I think we'll get a little bit more thoughtful as we get a little more runway and understanding our demand cycles and how that works. But yeah, we usually work between 6 and 8 weeks of inventory in our pipeline between us and Lineage.
Awesome. Thank you. Allison, do you see some other questions that we need to get to?
Oh, there is another question that came in. And in the meantime, I'll ask mine. And that is probably more toward Ryan. How did you go about developing your customer interface and integrating that with Lineage's ordering system? And I ask that because I think that's a barrier to a lot of frozen food companies who want to get into this space, because they're manufacturers of frozen foods. They aren't marketers. So can you talk a little bit about how you went through that process, and any advice for others who want to start D2C?
Yeah, do not expect perfection. It is a bit of an art. We use Solidus for our order management system. That our front end is obviously our website. We have programmers or whatnot to create the customer experience. And then as we take in the data, it goes through Solidus. We're actually working currently on a better way to integrate with Lineage. It's still a bit manual in terms of taking the output of our order intake process and translating that over to Lineage. But I think that's where strategic partnerships become critical, right? Like, we understand the importance of getting that handoff correctly. Spreadsheets, database systems, et cetera, that require exports and imports are not ideal. I think for smaller companies like us, Lineage has been great and it's worked with us, but over time, like, we continue to invest in that partnership. So we have open conversations with their engineering team. We're on Solidus. What are you guys doing? And working on ways that we can get better handoffs. Ultimately, we'd love for them to have complete transparency into our manufacturing process, so they know exactly what's coming, when and in what quantities, to just eliminate the amount of like manual touch points that frankly are still occurring. So I think it's going to be a little bit different for every company, Allison. The amount of money that you can spend at any given point on the IT infrastructure. Again, we're still a little bit manual, but as we continue to grow and scale, like, those are opportunities for improvement. And Lineage has been very helpful in terms of partnership and flexibility to give us even best practices. Like, what do other bigger companies that are kind of at that next phase doing? What kind of softwares are they using? What works best with your warehouse management system, right? That's the key software handoff that's important between the manufacturer and Lineage. And those are ongoing discussions. So be prepared for a journey, I think, is the punchline.
Yeah. And I think, the other question we have on here was kind of along the same lines, maybe not the ordering, but the fulfillment. And again, we have companies who manufacture a lot of different types of frozen foods, some premium, some everyday foods, right? And so that fulfillment, in either case, they're not doing fulfillment direct. They're doing fulfillment to get it to a distribution center in very large quantities, and yet they may not be able to have the customers to ship that D2C to in such large quantities, right? So kind of how did you go about that, and how are you continually improving that system of, it's really the pack and ship piece of it.
Yeah, no, we started doing our own fulfillment. So we had our order intake process with Solidus. We use ShipStation for our actual like software to put shipping labels onto boxes in our facility. And those were softwares that worked for us at the time. I think this is where it's interesting that you bring it up. Like, that is not our core competency. And I think we quickly recognize that we're a coffee manufacturer. Like, our value add to the customer was focusing on making the best possible quality coffee, creating the brand, focusing on the brand. And where we have chosen over time not to invest is to continue to build out some type of world-class, direct to consumer fulfillment operation. Because frankly, you have companies like Lineage that do that for a living and have the scale and have the infrastructure and have the experience. And so I think even though we started with that capability, we are actively kind of tuning back and rolling back and transitioning the majority of our volume to the experts, right? We are not a fulfillment company, we're a coffee company, and we recognize that. It's tough to let that go. I think that last kind of step before the customers, where every founder and new company like wants to make sure that every detail is absolutely perfect, and you want to have your eyes on the box as it's shipped up and taped up and ready to go. But you start to realize that there are other people that are willing to put that much love and care into it. I think we've been fortunate to find a great partner in Lineage, who we know is taking care of our customers like we would. And we are that's a spot where we're investing frankly in the partnership versus the technology.
Thank you, that's so helpful.
I think that's really what you just said. That's a business case for any business, but know what to invest in and know where to stop investing, and let experts do what experts do, so you can be the best at whatever. It's your unique proposition. That's really brilliant. So I think Allison, I may have answered this question about chicken and the egg, when you're too big to self-fulfill, but maybe are you too small? And I don't know, Jean, if you'd have any other thoughts on that. when's the right time for them to give a call? I mean, I'm assuming you guys can coach and help a business assess if the time is right to partner with you all.
Yeah, we have tough decisions every day about just that conversation. We do work with growing brands, but there are other third-party logistics fulfillment companies that specialize in chocolate or refrigerated or even frozen product that have lower minimums. And so it's getting maybe into one of those partners first. And then as you're scaling and growing and you're expanding and you're looking for the scale that Lineage can provide with the multi-warehousing solution and the larger, higher volume throughput, that's when you would make a change in your third-party strategy to fill that gap, because there is no solution to, you either fulfill it for yourself or you hire somebody. So you have to find that partners that's going to take you from the lower volumes to the part where you're high, or you invest. And there's some companies that just, they put a lot of money into that upfront cost, and they just spend money on marketing and they spend money on the minimums at the third-party logistics organization. And then they grow and really they build up to that level of scale.
I would just only add, at the end of the day, the one thing that you cannot solve for without that partnership is geography. And ultimately this becomes a cost issue, right? Our blunt reality moment is when we started to see the express bills, right? We have a frozen product. Back to the temperature validation question, like we know it can last for 48 hours in a frozen state when it gets there. When you got to ship from Gloucester, Massachusetts to Los Angeles, California in the middle of the summer, like the only way to get it there is express. And like you just see the bill come in and you're like, we have to do something different. Like this is not a sustainable model, and geography is really the key portion of that. You've got Lineage that has 8 different distribution sites in the big geographies where people like to drink our coffee, and it was just a no-brainer, and we saw the instant impact to our bottom line.
I love it. And Allison, I think we've had a great conversation. I'm happy to hand to you to sort of close us out and thank our members.
Yeah, thank you to our members for joining us, and thank you especially to Jean and Ryan and Susie for this very insightful discussion. Thank you so much. We will make this recording available. We will send it around to everyone who participated today, and it will be available afterwards as well, so that if you didn't take all the notes you wanted to, you can go back and review it at your leisure. All right. And we are available at AFI to answer any further follow-up questions and connect you with Jean if you've got other questions of Lineage, and with Susie or myself. So thank you very much. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.